Hey folks, welcome back to your favorite damn show that there is, Jaws on Sports. Man, we are so excited to be back here to celebrate the Oklahoma City freaking Thunder's NBA championship. Zach, have you recovered from your post-final celebration yet?
I finally came back down to earth yesterday. I did. Yeah. It took what day is it? Saturday.
Yes, sir.
About 5 days. Meant a lot. I mean, 17 years isn't a lot in sports terms. There's teams like the Knicks that have suffered for a long time, but for OKC,
Yeah.
just how every single time they lose, it would be in a heartbreaking way. And then all of our favorite players left, and they sucked really bad, and they finally built back up and got it done. So it meant a lot to all the fans in the state, and um, super excited for that. Definitely a top moment for my fandom for sure.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. We were going to do a show Tuesday night post parade, but our schedules haven't merged in a good enough way until today. So we're happy to be here, happy to talk about it. It's been a long time. And my brother and I were chatting about this just yesterday when the New Orleans Hornets had to relocate to Oklahoma City for those 2 years, and that was with Chris Paul and some other guys. I didn't think that the NBA would work in Oklahoma City. Just never thought it would work. I thought they had a better chance with NHL. Um, I'm glad I was wrong, but it's been a long time coming. I remember the heartbreak of the great Durant, Russell Westbrook, the James Harden teams, Serge Ibaka, tons of talent there. They broke him up in their prime. Thunder kind of went up and down, but man, they came back, and I still thought when these playoffs began, I thought that they were still a year out. Because if we go back to our pre-playoff show that we did, I think I had the Celtics and the Thunder in the final. Um, I don't need anybody to fact check that. It's okay. But I thought that they were a year away from bringing home the big trophy. I'm glad I was wrong. Hell of a run. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say this: my two favorite playoff runs ever were this year, and it was OKC, and then the bad guys on the other side, the Pacers. I mean, two of the most exciting playoff runs I've ever seen. Um, Can't say I like the Pacers, but they were so fun to watch. Just game in, game out. They would blow a 20-point lead. They would come back from a 20-point deficit and win. Um, what was it? I think it was game one against the Knicks, where Aaron Nesmith caught fire, hit like eight
Mhm.
straight threes at the end, and then Halliburton had the choke at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
They
just
just they had different guys step up. Who's that dude? McCutcheon? Uh,
TJ McConnell, he's evil.
McConnell. McConnell, good grief. Yeah, that guy's not much bigger than we are. He's like an inch taller than us. And he was just lighting it up, even in game seven. Just
Yeah.
they kept playing. I do not know an Indiana Pacers fan. I never had anything against them. Honestly, I was cheering for them when they were playing the Knicks and against the Bucks. Never had anything against them. Didn't think they'd get this far. They have grit. Yeah, I know that we talk about like in the NFL, the Detroit Pistons last year. Detroit Pistons. Detroit Lions had grit until they took a dump in the playoffs. The Pacers were like that. I'm trying to think. I think it was you and I that we saw a Pacers fan. Was that in Kansas City for the UFC fights?
I
At
don't.
Joe's
Yeah,
Barbecue, or was it the place
saw a
that?
Thunder fan at Joe's. We
Yeah,
saw we saw a Thunder fan there, but I'd
yeah.
never really seen one. But saw a couple of Halliburton jerseys pop up last couple weeks. Probably just bought them a few weeks ago. But that's okay. You got to capitalize on it, I guess. Um, but just a great run. I mean, Benedict Mathurin off the bench. He was their big first round pick a few years ago. He was awesome. He scored, I think, 25 in game three and put them over the top. Um, he had a great game seven too, almost brought him back. But they were fun to watch. If they didn't play OKC at all, I'd probably like them a little bit more. But
Yeah, yeah,
some break in that series, luckily, went the other way. But Pascal Siakam was awesome. He had 39 points in one of their games against the Knicks, I think. And just TJ McConnell, man, he's evil. I'll tell my buddy, I'll tell my kids about this playoff run, but can't tell it without TJ McConnell and some evil campfire stories there.
yeah.
Keep you up.
There's definitely some campfire stories with that guy. I just yeah, I'm looking at him on the court and I'm thinking, what? No, no, hell no. He's going to the rim with Chet Holmgren, who is like 13 inches taller than him, that has a just a standing reach that's like that far from the hoop, and McConnell just goes right around him and somehow scores. It was the darndest thing.
He was automatic in the mid range, and he was a pest on defense.
Yeah, yeah,
Guy that you love if he's on your team, but you hate him if you're playing against him.
yeah. You get that right. Yeah, I want to show some respect out there to the great Tyrese Halliburton, and it's a hell of a way to go out like he did. There's been a lot of Achilles injuries here with big stars. Good grief, Jason Tatum derailed the Celtics' hopes, but Halliburton he went out on his shield there. But these are year-long injuries that they're going to miss. But even without him, that team came together, and I was glad to see that final whistle go. Even though OKC midway through the fourth quarter had a 20 freaking point lead, there were multiple times in the last 4 minutes of the game where the Pacers had a ball with a chance to make it single digits. And we were chatting about this. I had three or four other people I was texting with, watching the game. I'm standing up in front of the TV. I can't sit down. Um, it's like, time, come on, time. And I think you even said at the 6 minute mark, this last 6 minutes is going to take 6 hours, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. That, Pacers are evil, man. I mean, they've done this all playoffs long. They could be down by, I think it was 14 with 250 left against the Knicks, and they came back and won.
Yeah.
Uh, they just leads turn into nothing when you're playing those guys because they have scores everywhere. I mean, Obi Toppin can go out there and catch fire. Neesmith, Matherin, um, Miles Turner was doing really well until the OKC series. I
Yeah.
think, he ended up shooting like 16% from wide open looks
Yeah.
during the series.
Them
Nim,
go and run. Yeah.
yeah,
They,
Hard was nasty.
they just they got a team of dudes that can just make it work. And it's unusual. I want to go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to the first part of the 2010s when we had LeBron make the decision go to the Heat with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. And so we were talking about, okay, well, you got to have a big trio. Okay. And you do that and you fill the rest of your roster with cheap role players. Now, respect to anybody that gets in the NBA because you got to be the best of the best to even make a roster. But that was a trend. Teams were trying to do that. Boston did the same thing a few years prior. I think it's 2008 with Paul Pierce and who was that? Kevin Garnett. And yeah, they had a trio. I can't think of who the other guy was.
Rajon Rondo.
That's right, Rondo. Rondo, he was good. So teams did that, and you paid giant money to two or three players, filled out the rest of your roster, try to do the best you can. Both Oklahoma City and Indy are classic cases of teams that built through the draft, homegrown stuff. Great, incredible use of draft picks. Okay. You go back and look. Yeah, I was reading about this again yesterday. 2000 COVID year, Thunder sucked. Okay, they did. A lot of teams kind of sucked that year, but they were pretty bad. They traded Paul George for what ended up being seven guys. Two of those guys were Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, MVP, Finals MVP, total badass out there, and his Robin to Batman to Robin, Jalen Williams, who is a friggin' star, had 41 night. Some other role players, just great stuff. Yeah, I always was a Paul George fan. He certainly wasn't worth all that. And you kind of like the Suns traded Kevin Durant for what, like two first round draft picks, five second round draft picks, and all this stuff. If you go all in on one player, what are you going to do to fill those slots around him? And that's what, the respect to Indy, they did. And definitely OKC, man. They routinely went nine deep on a game where that was close.
Well, they did that all year, though. I
Yeah,
mean, it was everyone. I mean, Jalen Williams off the bench, the center Jalen Williams. He had three triple doubles this year.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those guys that would step up. Caruso had two 20-point games in the finals. I got my Caruso shirt on today.
Nice. Very nice. He's got two championships now, man.
He does. He's a ultimate glue guy. He can make
Yeah.
the shots. He can play great defense. Aaron Wiggins saved basketball
Mhm.
again, and Casey Wallace was knocking down his shots. I'll never forget. We'll get to it in a little bit, but when he dropped the hammer on Jokic in Game 7,
Yeah,
uh,
that was gnarly.
there's some awesome iconic moments for Thunder basketball in the playoffs, but um, just because we haven't really talked about the rest of the playoffs, I mean, the big story coming in was Luca and LeBron and Ant. He sent them home early. I think 5 games. I think it was 4-1.
It was
Um,
4-1.
yeah,
We were driving back from Kansas City when I think it was game three or game four. It was the game where Reddick, Lakers head coach, had the same five Lakers in for like the last 20 minutes of game time.
yeah.
And um, whatever. But
But they got bounced. Ant was dunking on everyone. That was it's fun to watch Nas Reed and Randall really tear it up until they ran into OKC.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but the Pacers had a fun run, but the Knicks on the other side. I mean, the Knicks and the Pistons series was awesome. Seeing playoff basketball in Detroit again. Um, they have a good team. I think Detroit's a couple years away, but it was cool to see them back.
Yeah,
And
for my old heads out there like me, that Knicks Pistons series reminded me of something that you would have seen in the late 80s or early 90s with the Bad Boys Pistons, the Bulls, and of course the Knicks, where things were knocked down, drag out. You had clotheslines and elbows, and um, for a lot of you folks, Chicago Bull fans, or even just bandwagon folks for the Jordan days, Bill Cartwright, 7 foot with these razor sharp elbows every time you put up a shot, just taking somebody's eye out. And that Pistons and Knicks series kind of reminded me of that. That was fun to watch.
yeah, that was good basketball. And then Brunson hitting the crossover three to end the series, and
Yeah.
it was over just like that. Um, Steph taking down the Rockets that went to 7 somehow. I can't believe that went to 7 games, but it's a shame he got hurt. Um, I don't know if they would have beat the Timberwolves, but that was a fun series to watch because the Rockets are another team that I think they were just a couple years away from being really good. I
I
like
like
Trey.
the Cavaliers, honestly.
Yeah, but Hallie sent them home too.
Yeah.
I mean, they went and I think they won 3 games on the road against the Cavs, all 3 games. So
Look
they
at
sent
that up there.
the
Yeah.
Cavs. I thought the Cavs are going to win the whole thing this year, but um, didn't turn out that way. Um, which is okay. I mean, I do think the two best teams made it to the finals, and that showed because it went to 7 games. But there was fun series out there. I mean, even before Tatum got hurt, the Knicks and the Celtics was fun to watch. You know, watching
Hmm.
uh, Michael Bridges knock down shots and force those turnovers at the end of the game. He just took the ball away. I don't remember what game that was. It was at Boston, and then Tatum went for the game winner down the baseline, and he tried to pass it out instead of shooting it, and swatted that down. So the Knicks defense in spurts, they had flashes of greatness, but the rest of the time, they were kind of just a bunch of cones out there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's an interesting way of putting it. Um, on the in the East, like I really thought that going in, the Celtics were the class. I thought that the Cavs were fun to watch. I didn't think they were going to be there this year. Turned out that was, that was pretty on point. But there's something to be said of the Pacers that kind of fell under the radar. And I want to touch on this, kind of piggybacks to something else here in a second. The Pacers had the second best record in the NBA since January the 1st, right behind the Thunder. Okay. And I looked that up yesterday. They were at worst the second best team in the league since in 2025. And how they kind of flew under the radar like they did, I don't know, as a four seed, but they were great. I want to say something here, and the way that the NBA does stuff is pretty wild. And what I mean is the finals ended Sunday, and then the darn draft was just a couple days later. So you had this incredible moment for the Thunder. You had the big parade Tuesday. 500,000 people showed up downtown in 129,000-degree heat, respected them. But then all of the sports media talk outside of Oklahoma start focusing on the draft. And then on top of that, if you go back to last weekend, what happened? Kevin Durant was traded. Okay, I'd be willing to bet somebody else's $10 that there was just as much, if not more, coverage about the Kevin Durant trade on Saturday and Sunday last week, right up until Game 7 started. And it goes back to OKC and Indiana being these small market teams. They don't get much respect, which is freaking nuts. The Thunder won 68 games.
yeah,
Um,
I don't, I don't know how much that really matters. I mean,
it
honestly,
shouldn't matter,
well,
but that's what's going on.
well, for the sake of today's show, I don't care too much about TV and crap. So, uh, just back to what we were talking about here. Um,
I
just
got off on a tangent there, man.
yeah, you did, and
Let's get back on point.
so the Nuggets played the Clippers in round one, and that was kind of just even. You didn't know it was going to happen. Went to 7 games, but evil Aaron Gordon had
Oh, yeah.
that put back dunk against them at the buzzer, and they ended up winning that series. But um, I can't believe still 2 game 1s for OKC. They just dominated the whole time, but they lost on the last shot. And
Yeah.
of all people, Aaron Gordon making that shot, it was different because Halliburton made the one in the finals, game 1. But Aaron Gordon, that made me mad. But that whole series was just terrifying. I mean, you had Julian Strawther, just some dude off the bench, go out there and blaze for 18.
Hmm.
And then you had Christian Braun knocking down everything. Jokic is he's so good, but he's kind of like Luca in the sense that he's not completely focused on basketball. Like sometimes he'll just complain to the ref instead of play defense. That helped OKC a lot, but
Yeah.
he makes some magic out there for sure. It was that was an interesting series. I think OKC. they showed they could be a title team in that series, going to 7 games, beating Jokic. I said in our last show a few months ago, Game 7, I would take Jokic over anybody, and I was wrong for that game, luckily. But that was an interesting series, and the way it wrapped up, OKC got the big win on the road in Game 4, went back Game 5, got the win, but it didn't look too good going into Game 7, but they beat them by 30 points. You
Yeah,
know,
they dominated game seven. Just I remember we were talking about this, and this was the Western Conference semifinals. I was pretty sure at the time that at that point, whoever won that series was going to be the finals favorite, regardless of who they ended up playing in the Western Conference finals, because I just the Nuggets, they've proven it. They have a championship a couple years ago. Jokic is just he's like a machine out there. He's like the Terminator. You can't stop him, and he does just enough on defense to cause trouble. But then they got these other dudes out there, like Gordon, who are 6'10" and jump out of the gym and make these crazy shots, and all these role players, and they're very capable. And I guarantee you the Nuggets will be back there again next year. I was concerned. Was that game? Which game was that? Was that game when the Nuggets won by 30 points? The night that the Thunder didn't show up.
I don't think they won by 30 points
Well,
in
they were
any of
ahead by
them,
30.
but they did lose. They went to overtime. OKC choked it away, and they got blasted in overtime um, on the road for one of the games. Um, I don't remember. I think that was Game 3, but because OKC won Game 2, then they lost Game 3. But I don't think they got ran out of the gym. They did get the breaks beat off them in Game 6.
Six. Yeah.
Again, not against the Nuggets, but against the Pacers. Um,
For some reason, I was thinking there. Now, I got to go back in time here. The Thunder destroyed the Nuggets in game two. And it was game three when they went to overtime and the Nuggets just just dominated in overtime. Yeah. That um so it was game four, which was a defensive struggle between Oklahoma City and Denver. The Thunder won 92-87. That was the game right there. I was thinking, hey, these guys, yeah, I consider them playoff tested now because
yeah,
they pulled this game out. They probably shouldn't have won that game.
that was the Lou Dort game. That
Yeah.
was the Lou Dort legacy
Oh, you
game.
got
Because
to, hey, you got to respect Dorture Chamber, man.
yeah, I
That
mean,
that should be a Netflix limited series right freaking there with the
he's,
great Lou Dort.
he's the reason they didn't get down 3-1. I mean, he hit 5 threes in that game. He hit like three back to back to back to bring it within two down the stretch. I mean, that was all him at the end there. You lose that game, you go down 3-1, and you're not going to win three in a row
Um,
against the Nuggets. So, um, interesting series there. I was living and dying off of every game because Jokic is just that good. And then you have Jamal Murray, who's streaky. He can go out there and score 30, or he can score three. You just don't know game to game. Um, but glad they got that done. And then when they played against the Timberwolves, it wasn't much of a series. I mean, Game 1 was a wash. Game 2, they got it done. Wiggins had a big time game. Game 3, you kind of expected the Wolves to come out and play well. They didn't miss that night. Dante DiVincenzo, um,
yeah, yeah.
Nas Reed, and then Anthony Edwards was more aggressive. They just played well. And then Game 4, where Shea fell down, passed it between the dude's legs, and J Dub hit the big three, and they won that game. I think they won like 128, 126, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, that's right. That's what
Um,
happened. Then they dominated in game five.
yeah,
Um, I liked, we talked about this. I liked the Minnesota Timberwolves. I like what they're doing. I love Ant. I think he's a great player. Um, the Thunder were just they were a couple steps better overall in the 5 game series, and it showed. Uh,
Yeah, they really did shut down Jada McDaniels that series. And Julius Randle, he had 2 games where he played pretty well, but Ant was forced to not be the centerpiece, and they had to rely on their role players to really score
yeah, I think
just about everything for them.
SGA shot better in that series. I think that we need to talk a little bit about. Oh, you froze there for a second. You got to. Are you in the Matrix or something? Okay. All right. It looks like
I'm
you're.
fine.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about SGA and uh, he had 31 points a game or 31 points. What the hell was that? Are you there? Hey, are you there? Did you disappear?
Someone's screwing with my computer and it's pissing me off.
Oh
Keep
man.
going.
Gosh. Okay. Yeah, whoever of our trillion listeners out there is screwing with Zach's computer, you're gonna get your butt kicked. Um, so I want to I want to talk about Shea Gilgeous-Alexander here. He had 31 points of average in the conference finals, and he had just over 30 in the NBA finals. The guy is phenomenal, and he shot better in the first 3 rounds than he did in the finals. But he made things work when he needed. I just think that this kind of shows you just how much better NBA champion Oklahoma City can be. Like when their superstar, when the MVP drops 2 from 12 from three in the finals, but still comes in with 30, hits the shots down the stretch, makes the plays, makes the steals, makes the assists, gets things going.
I mean, that's who he's been though, because
Yeah.
Shea, he's a mid-range guy. He gets to the rack. He isn't really a perimeter shooter. But the big story was Jalen Williams showing up because he was kind of inconsistent throughout the playoffs. He had some stinkers in there where he didn't play super well. He had his average. I mean, that's average for him, but it's a big time night where he'd score 20. It's kind of just what he's done all year. But he really stepped it up in the finals. Each game, up until game 6, he increased his point total. He had the huge explosion in game 5 with 40 points, was just making everything. They couldn't guard him. I mean, that was his game that we'll remember him for when he's done playing. But it was really just him showing up because with OKC, you have a 1A and you have a 1B when Jalen Williams is really on. And when he turns it on like that, he's capable of scoring 30, 40 points a night. But Shea made the plays when it mattered. And Hallie, he really created for um, his teammates, but OKC at times, they weren't knocking down the easy ones. And the Pacers were like Obi Toppin in game 6. I mean, he had 20. He had multiple games. He had double digits and a lot of threes.
Mhm.
Uh, McConnell was doing his thing out there, but a lot of the time, Shea still had to score in isolation or
Yeah.
with 2 guys on him. So they didn't have that shot making ability that the Pacers did from everybody. Occasionally Kaysen or Wiggins or Chet would hit a three, but for the most part, they had to work for just about everything in that series.
I want to talk a little bit about OKC's two big men, Hornstein and Chet Holmgren. I mean, obviously, Chet Holmgren is a budding star here. He's very young still, just a couple years in the league. He missed his first season because he tried to man up with LeBron, and I think LeBron was trying to teach him a lesson or something. You remember that? Like
That
a
was a
preseason?
pickup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pick up. Yeah, but he has really come on. He's getting stronger out there. I was so impressed with his defense and getting the blocks at timely opportunities there in Game 7. Um, I know that the NBA draft was real top heavy, the Thunder picked up this 6'9", 270 pound dude, and I can't remember his name.
Sorber from
Yeah,
Georgetown.
that guy from Georgetown, big bodied, and I think that means that maybe Hornstein. I don't know how much longer he's going to be around. I figure he might be a cap casualty, but
Well, first of all, it's Hartenstein. All right. So Hartenstein is his name, and he was a perfect fit. The league let OKC get Caruso and Hartenstein in the same offseason. Great off ball, great getting boards. Mark Dagnall said he's the best screener he's ever coached in his whole career.
he's not the only one that said that. I don't remember who was doing the game. Uh, uh, Doris Burke doesn't like the Thunder. That's fine, but I can't
He's
remember the two guys that were calling the game, and they kept talking about how he is just a great screener. So
he doesn't need the ball to impact the game, and he was great for them all year. When he started, when him and Chet played, they barely lost at all. Um, but yeah, I think he'll be there a couple more years for sure.
I, yeah, I'm just hoping that they can keep him around for at least another season because they're set up really well.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Yeah,
But just really in that series, it was you kind of living and dying off of everything. Um, like Hartenstein would go out there, miss a free throw, and you'd say, "This guy sucks." He'd come back the next drive, hit a floater, and be like, "Man, this is the best free agent pickup we've had." So, but really, just 7 games. It was terrifying. I mean, the game one had all the momentum, didn't score for like the last 2:30. They got a couple free throws, and then Shea had the layup at the end, but
yeah,
letting Halliburton get the ball with any time left on the clock there to shoot that. And just watching the whole playoff, she expected that shot to go in, and it did.
yeah,
And their dark magic worked in game one. Not so much in game two. Um, Aaron Wiggins saved basketball in game two, had a big time game. Kind of expected that bounce back. And then game three, just they were just better down the stretch. And that's just who they were all year. And it was weird watching the shift coaching wise because Rick Carlisle, the Pacers, they had that pace the first 4 games where they just were going the whole time, running up and down the court, playing full court press. And they kind of got away from that. And they ran more sets on defense and offense, which is an interesting chess match there. But OKC, it was weird because it seemed like they would get tired in the third quarter and they would have pretty poor third quarters. And
hmm,
then in the fourth quarter late, they would show up and make it happen down the stretch, which was really weird to me watching. Because especially game four, where they were down by double digits, Obi Toppin had that slam down the baseline. He hit the back to back threes. I was like, they might win this game by 20 points. And they really stepped up. Shea and Caruso down the stretch, they got the win. Um, Shea hit that crazy shot, stumbling backwards, uh,
yeah,
fade away at the end, and it just looked like they were gassed. And on on the road, they came back against all odds, down by double digits. Crowd was into it. They somehow found a way. That was the series, I think. I mean, if it's kind of like the Denver one. If you lose that game four, you're not going to win 3 in a row.
yeah. The Pacers came out and totally destroyed the Thunder in Game 6, which was the last game in Indianapolis, and that was kind of a I don't want to call it a throwaway game. I know you were there at that game. Uh,
Yeah, I mean that crowd was. I didn't like their fans; they weren't very nice. But the crowd was great. Obi Toppin had his career game. OKC just they never really settled in. Like the second quarter was one of the worst quarters I've ever seen. They were just throwing the ball away. They were careless. They weren't taking good shots. In the third quarter, it took them like 5 minutes to score.
yeah, yeah,
And then they hit. a buzzer beater at the end of the second quarter and third quarter, and then got that steal and Pascal dropped the hammer on Jalen Williams. And internally, I wanted to go crazy because it was a great basketball play, but it was my guy that got dunked on.
Yeah.
So I was just standing there mad that they were getting blasted, but that was just a great play. Um,
Look,
but
you got these two teams that were at the top of their game, and there's a we talk more about this in football than we do in basketball, but there's a very fine line between, winning by one and losing by 25.
oh
And
yeah,
it doesn't take much. And we saw all year the Thunder would go on a, 15 to 2 run, and most of the time they'd be able to close things out. Indiana was not that team that gives up. You miss a couple shots, and that 15-point lead that you had turned into 8 just like that. And that's what they did all year. Again, mad respect to them. But we got exactly 2 minutes left, and just got any final thoughts on this?
so my thing, I was there in Indy, and after that game, they were shooting off fireworks. People were running in the streets, celebrating, climbing poles, and at that point, I knew that OKC had them because they thought it was over. They were saying Pacers in seven, but um, went back home to the House of Pain for Game Seven. Gave them the belt, just beat them up. Um, Lou Dort's artillery from the logo, draining the threes. Caruso and uh, Chet making great defensive plays. Shea doing his thing. We said he didn't have a great game. He had 29 points.
Hmm.
So um, always casual with him. The Mike Breen bang for J Dub's three at the end to go up 21. I mean, meant so much for the state. The city just we needed that. It's been too long. But a big thanks to Miles Turner and Russell Westbrook for being our biggest fans and sucking when they played against OKC. I appreciate that. With that said, this beautiful jersey right here, we still love you, Russ. Did it for
And
Russ.
is that when you were like 6? Is that one of
Yeah,
the originals?
doesn't quite fit me anymore, but I'll give that to my son one day and tell them the greatness of Russ and the greatness of this Thunder team for sure.
Yeah, respect to Russell Westbrook. He's a big part of the Oklahoma City downtown projects, construction projects and stuff. And um, I don't know how much time he's got left. I'd like to see him come back, sign whenever he's done, sign a day contract to retire as a Thunder. I think that'd be pretty cool. But we got 20 seconds here. Just for all the haters out there, Oklahoma City Thunder haters, yeah, up yours. There you go. Champs, right here. Not going anyplace. Gonna be back again.
You will see.
We're not gonna worry about that now, but that's what I'm saying right now.
Thunder and seven.
Thunder and 7. Jaws on Sports.